Welcome to Splattergore, and this is the very first episode. I'm happy to bring this episode to you. We're going to talk about horror news. We're going to do some retrospectives. I'm going to give my opinion on some projects that are in what they call developmental hell. So let's start everything off with last week at E3. The footage through Twitch, an interview happened where they showed 5 minutes of gameplay footage, but you had Sean S. Cunningham, and you had the game director, and you had everybody talking about the game. The game started as a Kickstarter. I actually backed the game, and it's going to be, you can either play as the counselors or you can play as Jason. Now, if you play as Jason, you can use sound to find your victims. You can do environmental kills. It's kind of like, from Jason's point of view, it's the Friday the 13th game we've always wanted. And you have Tom Savini's in there. The footage they showed was from Friday the 13th Part 3, the Higgins house, and you got to actually go in there. And Jason's such a brutal person in there. So in the game, you can actually work with people. Like, you could find weapons. You can actually kill Jason in the game. They flat out said it on the cast. You could find parts to a car so you can make it so it starts. You can team up. You can fight Jason. And Jason can use weapons. It looks fucking amazing. I'm a huge Friday the 13th fan. See that? There we go. Got that tattoo at Crypticon last year. Huge Jason fan. I think this is going to be really good. It comes out in October. It's going to come out on Xbox One, PS4, and PC. So no Xbox 360 and no PS3. There will be a single player campaign, but the more people that pre-order, you can get other things. On the website it said you can get a Jason from Jason Goes to Hell, or Jason Takes Manhattan, or Jason X. Other maps will open up with the more people that pre-order. You can even get a digital copy. But the one I'm gonna get is it's an art book. So how they made the book, how they made the game, everything. Really big, thick book it looks like. A metal case for the game with specialized artwork, and the soundtrack, which would be really cool because I love the Friday the 13th music. Harry Manfredini, who's always done the Friday the 13th scores, is doing it really well. He's always done good on the soundtracks, and I think it's going to be really cool. Now, on Jason news, let's talk about what got released. I think it was a week or two ago. They were talking about the screenplay. Now, what they're doing is a prequel to tell Jason's backstory. Now, why a prequel? Now, the people that own Friday the 13th right now are the same people that did the Friday the 13th, the Nightmare on Elm Street remake, which everybody hated. I didn't think it was that good, and in this prequel with Jason, you're going to learn more about Pamela Voorhees and her husband, Elias Voorhees. And you're going to see little Jason as a teenager killing people, which doesn't make sense because when he was 13 years old is when he drowned. So what, he goes and kills people with his mom before he's 13? It's a prequel. Why do we need a prequel to Friday the 13th? I could write a Jason movie in a weekend. You don't need a lot in there. And the 2009 remake was fucking amazing. It was a great Jason movie. You need Jason in the woods killing people, and don't make him look stupid like you have in the past. Jason X is a good example. Friday the 13th Part 5 is another good example. Freddy vs. Jason, they made him look like a fucking retard. I don't know why they're doing this. They're doing the same thing with Leatherface. Leatherface is getting a prequel, which either releases in 2016 or 2017. You don't need a prequel to Leatherface. We've already had a prequel to Leatherface. So, that Friday the 13th news just kind of rubs me the wrong way. It's better than the found footage Jason movie that they were going to do. that just... I don't know why Friday the 13th is so off the rails. But talking about that, let's switch to Halloween. Halloween, we were going to have Halloween Homecoming next year, but the Lionsgate lost the rights. So now it's going to be executive produced by John Carpenter. Hopefully he does the soundtrack. They said it's going to be closer to the old Halloween movies. So you're not going to have your psychedelic Rob Zombie murder mayhem movie like Halloween 2 was. Halloween 1, the Rob Zombie one, wasn't as bad as Halloween 2, but Halloween 2 was just a fucking mess. I was reading online the other day, and there was 5 possible storylines for the new Halloween. Some people think, one of the things that some people were thinking is there was a comic that came out that dealt with Sam Loomis' son going from his point of view, trying to figure out if this Michael Myers thing was real, going from that point. That doesn't sound interesting to me. Then I also found out that they might be doing a Halloween after Halloween 2, because there was this huge gap if you look at Halloween, where it went Halloween 2 to 4, there was no Michael Myers. There was like in the storyline there was a 10-year gap. And they were thinking about going with Laurie Strode again, and the ambulance driver, the paramedic, I don't remember his name, doing that storyline. The only one that really seemed, there's a couple other, but there's only one storyline that actually seemed interesting. 2 that seemed interesting. First, Halloween Resurrection. Continuing the story of Halloween after Halloween Resurrection. He comes back to life. He doesn't die at the end of Halloween Resurrection. But the real story that sounded cool was Blumhouse Productions, who is known for The Purge, Paranormal Activity, Sinister, Insidious, are thinking of going off the story of Jonathan Strode. Now, you could go on a revenge story with that. This is my take. If I was writing Halloween, this is what I would do. I would continue on the Michael Myers, but I wouldn't just keep it in Haddonfield, because he's been in Haddonfield in so many movies that wouldn't Michael want to try somewhere new. And now, if you watched Halloween, the producer's cut for Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers, which I think is an extremely underrated Halloween movie, Michael has a son. Okay? Michael and his niece had a kid. Okay, it's a boy. And it's the baby that's all in that. That baby survived. Wouldn't Michael hunt him down? Because Michael always wanted to kill his family line. Like for some reason he hates his family line and he wants them all dead. They explain it a little bit, but they don't go into detail, like why is he trying to kill Jamie, his niece. But you could really go and bring back Laurie Strode's son from Halloween H2O. You could get Josh Hartnett, or you could cast a completely new new actor to play that role. You could bring in like the son of a Sam Loomis, and you could go with that kid. And then you could really make it where Laurie's son has really been trying to find Michael, and it almost makes it like it's a revenge tale, but show Michael killing people, and really this time there's somebody actually hunting Michael. There's like, you could have multiple people trying to hunt Michael, and then that way, even if you were to kill off a Jonathan Strode, you would have Michael's son, who could either take the reins or it could be a new antagonist to go after Michael. Because horror movies where you have multiple movies with the same type of character going after it, like Nightmare on Elm Street 4 and 5, you have Alice. Friday the 13th, 4, 5, and 6 had Tommy Jarvis. You had Nancy in A Nightmare on Elm Street. You had Kirsty in Hellraiser. It really adds to the mythology, and I think you could really fix Halloween, because a lot of people still have sour grapes from Resurrection. Wasn't received that well. Neither was the Rob Zombie Halloween, and what they called H2, because they didn't want you to forget about Halloween 2. So I think there's a lot of ways they could do it. I just want them to go back to, you can have gore, but you don't need excessive gore, because Halloween has never been about excessive gore. And you could really tell a good story. Music, writing, acting, good director. Just make it really well. I wish that they could get like Freddy Alvarez. Freddy Alvarez is the one who directed the Evil Dead sequel, remake, reboot. It actually is a sequel to the Evil Dead movies, but you could really do something special with it. So I thought that was really good. Finding that stuff online. One of the sites I frequent a lot is upandcominghorrormovies.com, which has a lot of information. Has a list for like the horror movies that are in development or that are being released within the next 5 years. There's two movies that are, one is supposedly filming in September. The other one is going to be released in October. And that is, let's start with Jeepers Creepers 3. The Jeepers Creepers 3 was supposed to start filming in April. There was an issue. Okay. For those of you who don't know, Victor Salva, who is the writer, producer, director of Jeepers Creepers 1, Jeepers Creepers 2, and wants to make Jeepers Creepers 3, which is called Cathedral. When he was younger, there was a scandal as he molested boys on set. And he filmed it. And he went to prison and did his time. But certain people, even though he went to prison, are trying to stop him from making this movie. Okay? So, because of that, the filming keeps getting delayed. And all of us fans have already been waiting. Let me see. Jeepers Creepers 2 came out in correct me if I'm wrong, it's either 2001 or 2002, around there somewhere, came out. I did not like that one. I love the first one. The first one is a great horror film. The second one wasn't that good, but this one's supposed to bring back Trish, the psychic, the father and the son from the second one, and it's supposed to tell how old the creeper is, go more into detail. There's going to be a little bit in the Wild West. It seems like a cool story and a good way to end it off and make it a flat-out trilogy and stop it there. I thought that's really good. I'm really hoping they're actually being able to make Jeepers Creepers. It's been a long time coming. But the other one is a movie that's been in development since 1999. Since 1999, this movie's been in development. Okay, it is the final Phantasm movie. Now, it went through a lot of changes where it was going to be post-apocalyptic. It was going to be a prequel at one point. But the movie's filmed, edited, everything. It's done, because this is the last movie that Angus Scrimm will ever do. Because he passed away in January, but he was able to finish his shots. They did additional shooting with him, and were able to do that as well. They brought back Michael Baldwin's in there again, reprising his role. He was in the first one. He wasn't in the second one. In the second one, they got a different actor. But he was in the third one, and he was in the fourth one, too. So this will be the fifth one in the series, and it's actually called Phantasm Ravager. And Phantasm is one of my favorite franchises, and it doesn't get enough love. It's not like gory horror, but it has a good mythology to it, a good background. I really love the way that it's like the tall man wants Michael. There's something special about him. Like, he can see things, and there's like interdimensional stuff going on, and cemeteries, and weird dreams, and these floating balls that are actually people inside of these little balls that have drills and spikes. But that will be released in October, because for the first time ever in the United States, they're releasing a Phantasm box set. Ever. In the UK, you can get a Phantasm box set, but in the United States, you can't. And even the original Phantasm, you can't get in the United States because one company had it, they lost the rights. Another company had it, they lost the rights. Now, J.J. Abrams he did Star Wars The Force Awakens, he did Super 8, he did the Star Trek remakes. J.J. Abrams got the original print of it, and is doing a high-def gloss on it to make it like 4K and make the movie look really good. It's good that somebody's actually doing that, because it's something that Phantasm really deserves. It's a great... If you want to watch a really good, just straight-up horror movie that you don't really know where it's headed, it's Phantasm. It's a great one. The first one came out in the 80s, and the second one's okay. It's not as good as the first, but 3 and 4 I really like. And you'll recognize Reggie, who's in here. You'll recognize him from other movies that he's been in. He was even in Starship Troopers. But that Phantasm comes out. One of the other news is, starting in August, they are filming a new Final Destination, and I say why. Okay, I don't like Final Destination movies, but my girlfriend watches them, and even told me that the way it ends, everything's tied up in a little bow, and you don't need anything else. You don't really need to continue on, but they continue on. It's just like there's rumors floating around that they're making another Saw movie. Another franchise that I think doesn't need anything. What really needs something is Hostel. And about 6 months ago, I read a report that Eli Roth wants to come back to Hostel and fix what was fucked up. Now, the reason why it got fucked up is Hostel 1, Eli Roth did it. People remember that movie. It was a great horror film. Hostel 2, more violent, more over the top, but still good story, everything. Hostel 3, Eli Roth had absolutely nothing to do with it. He gave them guidelines on what you should do, and what they did was take it to the United States, which is not what Hostel is. Hostel takes place out of the country because it makes more sense. They put it in Las Vegas, which was stupid. You turn it into a game show. All the deaths are CG, which was fucking stupid, and it just didn't make sense. There was nothing that connected it to the other movies. It's the same. They did the same thing to him with Cabin Fever 2 and Cabin Fever 3. Eli Roth's movies are good because he has like a vision. Like, I hope one day to be able to make some horror films and be on the level of an Eli Roth. I've liked every single movie that he's done, because there's movies where he's an executive producer and it's not him, but Green Inferno, Cabin Fever, of course Hostel 1 and 2, they're all good movies. Like, he has a good sense of what he's doing. So Sometimes people touch other people's work and it goes to shit. It really does. And I really hope that they can fix things. It's just like, they're doing more casting for the new It movie, which the movie scared the shit out of kids when I was little. So you could definitely, hopefully they go for more of a horror edge. There's a lot of stuff in the book that they couldn't put in the movie because it was a TV miniseries on NBC when I was a kid, and things are a lot different. There's a lot more that you can do. So that was some good news that I found out. Some news I didn't like was Hellraiser. Okay, right now there is currently 2 different Hellraiser movies in production. One I've been focused on for a long time. It's still in pre-production, and that is the Hellraiser remake. But it's being remade by Clive Barker, who did the original, because he wants to do stuff in there that he couldn't do. Back in the 80s, he had to edit, he said about 40 minutes of the movie had to be cut due to violence and the MPAA back then. Because if you think about it, Hellraiser was like the first real torture film, like with demons and chains and like demonic boxes and stuff like that. Hellraiser was way ahead of its time when it came out, and it's going to have Pinhead in there. The other one does not have Pinhead. Okay, it stars Heather Langenkamp from the Nightmare on Elm Street series. She played Nancy, and they're going to have what are called, it's called Hellraiser Judgment, and you're going to have like executioner Cenobites from hell, but no Pinhead. So the fans already, when they hear no Pinhead, when you hear no Doug Bradley, we all think of Hellraiser Revelations. Hellraiser Revelations did not have Doug Bradley. We all saw how that turned out. It pissed everybody off, and it was just a horrible experience. And it's a movie that I wish they never made. Doug Bradley makes Hellraiser. Without him, there is no Hellraiser, and that's my opinion. But from that, I wanted to talk about something special, and that is forgotten relics. There are certain movies out there that people just forget about. Whether it's like horror movies that are so obscure that people don't know about them. Like when people say that Halloween is the first official slasher film, which Halloween is my all-time favorite horror film, but it is not the first ever slasher. That would go to Black Christmas. Black Christmas came out 5 years before Halloween and was a very good horror film. You never see the killer. You just see his eyes. And it has that bag trick that just goes the whole movie of a girl in a rocking chair with a plastic bag around her throat. There's like other like new age classics like Wolf Creek people haven't seen. But this past weekend, me and my girlfriend were looking through my uncle's horror films, and we were just trying to find something good. She hasn't seen as many as I have. I've been watching horror movies since I was like 5 years old. So since 1990, nonstop, I've been watching horror films. I absorb them like a fucking sponge. We watched Demons and Demons 2. Not to be confused with Night of the Demons, because Night of the Demons is like funny horror, I guess. It's not really serious. Okay. Out of the two of them, I'm going to pick the first one to really go over. Because the second one, while it was decent, it wasn't as good, and they could have come up with a different story. Now, this is the premise of the movie is a bunch of people go to the movies. They get free tickets to go to this movie. And they start watching this horror movie on screen, and stuff that's happening on screen happens to people in the audience. And it starts a chain reaction where if you get scratched or get bit by the demon, you turn into a demon. And these demons are not like your just weird eye shit. Teeth fall out. There's really cool transformation sequences, especially since this came out in 1985. So this movie's as old as I am. The fingernails grow really long. The eyes are like glowing like a headlight. So when they're chasing after each other, it's just glowing. And there's a lot of good characters that you can really care about, whether it be the pimp that's in there. There's like these two girls that you don't know which one's going to be the survivor girl, and the one you thought was going to be the survivor girl ends up dying off. You have like druggies in there, and like they destroy the tape because they think the tape is what's causing the demons, but it's the theater itself. And because of everything that happens, the demons get out, and the whole world is fucked. So, by the end of it, they left it wide open for them to just continue the story of people trying to restart their lives, but there's demons everywhere now. And one of the things I did is I went on Google, and I went on IMDb, and trying to find if there was a Demons 3. Now, what I found out is a bunch of people released movies using the Demons 3 name, but none of them had anything to do with it. And first off, this was done by an Italian, Dario Argento was the executive producer on here. And I believe the son of Mario Bava, who was a big name in Italian horror films, his son actually did these movies. Because in the second one it deals with the TV, but it takes place in an apartment building, but it doesn't continue the story. And I was hoping there was a Demons 3. I really was. And the closest that there is somebody made a comic book to go with the re-release of Demons on Blu-ray. Now, to me, this is was a really good movie. It's hard when you watch a movie that's 30 plus years old and the special effects you want them to hold up, because there was not CG back then. It was all foam latex and blood bags and animatronics and special effects. But the transformation sequences were so good in the first one, and even the kills. Like somebody gets hanged, but they get turned into a demon while they get hanged, so when the rope breaks, they're a demon. And like the pulsating of the neck, it just... When you see a really good horror film that actually stands up the test of time, it's really cool. Because there's some movies that just don't. There's some movies that just don't stand up the test of time. And there's what I call classics and what other people call classics are completely different. Like a lot of people say The Exorcist is a great horror film, and I find it boring. Same thing with Rosemary's Baby. I like movies like the Jason movies, Hellraiser, Halloween movies. Not for my nickname being Chucky, it's weird that I'm not a big Child's Play fan. Like, they're just not really that good to me. But I like Puppet Master. And Puppet Master's cheesy as fuck. Subspecies is another one that I think is really good, but it's underrated. I like the look of the vampire in there. God, I can't remember his name right now, but using the bloodstone to drink out of is really cool. Because Full Moon did make some good movies, but then they have shit like Ginger Dead Man Evil Bong, Killjoy, stuff like that. Subspecies was just like something different. Because there are horror movies out there that really try to be different. Because for every Slumber Party Massacre and Saturday the 14th and Terror Train, you get a Sleepaway Camp, which was Sleepaway Camp just boggled the mind. But then you got movies like Maniac. Maniac is a great horror film. The Burning is a good slasher film. Or if you can go back to the 1960s, late 60s, there was Blood Feast. Blood Feast is a movie that I love to death. Don't watch the sequel because it came out like 25 years later. But Blood Feast was, he randomly found women and he cut off their body parts because he wanted them. There was the story was really good, but they didn't have a lot of money in the budget. So if a story is really good in a horror film, I can look past the bad budget. And that would be, it's called Scarecrow. Now it is not Night of the Scarecrow, but it comes in a 2-pack of Scarecrow, and then the sequel's called Scarecrow Slayer. Now in Scarecrow, he's a kid that's physically beat up by his stepdad. Everybody makes fun of him. So he dies in the field when his stepdad beats him to death. But he makes a pact with the Scarecrow and comes back. And he comes back, and the design of the Scarecrow is like so cool. And the way it's told, it's like a campfire story, which is really cool. I like it when movies are done well. Now, I do like the slapstick horror that is like Return of the Living Dead 1 and 2, which are essentially the same movie. Evil Dead 2, Jack Frost is like funny as hell. I do like some of those slapsticky horror films, but sometimes you just want a really serious horror film that is almost unnerving, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre or Hellraiser 2 Hellbound is really creepy. Or there's this movie I saw when I was like 10 years old. It's called Beware of the Children, and it's basically a NC-17 Children of the Corn, which is unheard of for you to have an NC-17 horror film nowadays. Like, I know as I've gotten older, and even in high school I made horror films, so I have a good idea of what good horror is and bad horror. I've tried to find like these rare gems that people tell me about. Like, I watched Class of Nukem High because people told me it was like good for Trauma, because Trauma is a studio that did like Kabuki, NYPD, the Toxic Avenger movies, they're most notably known for. But I love Italian horror films that I found. Like Suspiria is like this weird Walt Disney trip out horror film. It's so beautiful but creepy at the same. It's about like people dying like at a dance school, and this girl from the States goes over to Europe to go train to be a dancer, and the movie is just very creepy, and it's like a Dario Argento movie, and when he touches things, it's almost like the gore is like a paintbrush for him. It's very good horror at its peak. Like, some of my other favorite directors would be John Carpenter. Halloween is what everybody goes to, but what I would go for a good John Carpenter movie is a movie called In the Mouth of Madness, which is it stars Sam Neill in there, and he goes to try and find this writer who's like disappeared, Sutter Kane. And periodically you find out that everything that he wrote in these books is actually real in this town called Hobbs End. And it's just, the more he reads these books, the deeper into madness he slips. So as you read these books, you become psychotic anyways. So it's like, imagine if everything that Stephen King writes about was real. It would blow your mind. In the Mouth of Madness is just a great movie. I love the ending. I think the ending is really cool. I like it that when horror movies don't always go for the happy endings. Because sometimes horror movies are good and sometimes they're bad. And one of those is the sequel condition. For certain sequels, you'll have like Silent Night, Deadly Night. The first one was good, inventive. Very controversial film. Extremely controversial for the time. It got pulled out of theaters. It's not the easiest movie to find on DVD. I found it at Goodwill of all places. The sequel is they basically retell the first story through flashbacks, and then his brother just randomly shoots people. But the third one has Bill Moseley, which is weird. I love Bill Moseley. I think he's a really good actor, especially in horror, and he's actually been in more horror movies than people actually know. Whether it be he was in Army of Darkness, and people don't know that he's Evil Ash in Army of Darkness when he's resurrected, and he was in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 as Chop Top, which is awesome. Also, Bill Moseley is a cool motherfucker. I met him at Crypticon. He was really cool. He was able to talk to us, talk to me and my girlfriend, and he just BS with us. But then you have movies where the sequel is nothing like the first one. And a good example would be Devil's Rejects. Devil's Rejects is one of my favorite movies of the last 15 years. Because Devil's Rejects really pushed the bar of how much violence you can put in one movie and still go to theaters. Bill Moseley, like as Otis, is just creepy as all hell. Especially that scene where they're all in the motel together and he's like fondling this guy's wife with his gun. It's really weird the way Rob Zombie makes movies. That's why I'm really excited for 31, which is coming out this October. The trailer just dropped, and it's a bunch of carnies the night before Halloween are taken to this random location to play the game 31, where they have to survive. And it looks like Devil's Rejects on crack. It looks really good, actually. I'm very happy that that's coming out. I know this episode's been a little bit rambly, but I like to just not make notes, but just go off the top of my head, because it sounds more organic. So, this has been Splattergore, episode 1, and every week I'm going to do another episode. So, next week I will do another one, and hopefully it's not as rambly and weird, but I will see you guys next week.